Welcome into the Jag Bros. I'm one of your hosts, JT Raymond, alongside my two brothers, Jack and Joey. Whew! Sometimes it's about survive and advance, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And the Jaguars hold on in a very tight, very ugly game in a lot of ways. They hold on with an unbelievable victory, 30-29 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Jacksonville scores first in overtime to put the pressure on Las Vegas. They score a touchdown, but they go for two in the win in the waning seconds of overtime. They do not get it. Jacksonville holds on. Jacksonville improves to 6-3. Boy, it was ugly, and the Raiders are not very good, but it's always nice to get a good win like that.
Whew, I'm so fired up. Jaguars sitting at 5-3, all heart, all clutch. The Jaguars offense was 3 for 3 on fourth down. JT, you mentioned it. And JT, it's great to have you back. We missed you on last episode. But Devon Hamilton getting that clutch block at the front of the line. The only time I think we had a play where our defensive line got a bat down at the line of scrimmage. Man, was that clutch, because I know we'll talk about in the defensive breakdown, but there were some guys wide open behind them. It feels good to be 5-3 and have a team that dealt with a ton of resilience, even going into the game. Travis Hunter shockingly gets hurt in practice. He's on IR. Our starting safety, Murray, goes on IR even before the game. And then we have a ton of injuries during the game. Trevor Lawrence is sick. He's playing a flu game, MJ style, and we still find a way to win. Yes, the Raiders are not very good, but it's hard to win on the road in the NFL, and it's super hard when it feels like half your team is hurt. So a ton of resilience, a ton of heart, and no wonder why Liam Cohen and the Jags were fired up after that game.
Yeah, I think I said in the opener that we're 6-3. I think I gave us the victory against the Texans this week
I love
ahead
it.
of time. So
Manifest
we are only
it.
5-3. So you are right, Jack. And great analysis. We were playing banged up, and to still get that win was awesome.
I was sweating it out, man. It's just so the Jags to lose that in the last second. Glad to see that we're back in the win category, doing what needs to be done to just get the W. I'm not a huge fan of the new overtime rules where no matter what, they get a shot of the ball. Hey, I'm happy we won. I'm happy that we ran the ball down their throat on that overtime drive. Travis Etienne played great. I've not ever think I've seen him run as hard as he ever did in that game.
And look, shout out Trevor. I mean, Trevor quietly is starting to become a little clutch in key moments on key drives, especially in the fourth quarter and now overtime. He's delivering the ball. He had a great drive to force overtime for us, and then to come right out in the beginning of overtime. You're right, a lot of that was Etienne, but Trevor led us and got the sneak on 4th and 1 in overtime. Man, it's Trevor. Look, there's some plays, including that interception on the goal line, that's just like, oh man, is he even possibly the guy? But little by little, we're seeing steadily improvement from him in some of the areas where he's certainly struggled through the years.
Here's the stat. Travis Etienne, yards after contact, 98 in that game.
That's incredible, considering he only actually had 84 yards.
Exactly.
Oh, well, that's including his receiving yards. So he had 31 receiving yards too. But yeah, I mean, almost all those yards are after contact. He had 9 missed tackles, which is a season high. He played fantastic. And I mean, let's just roll right into game balls. Who wants to go ahead and give the game ball to Etienne, because he definitely deserves it?
I'll go ahead and give my offensive game ball to Etienne. Ran absolutely perfectly. I watched him squeeze through some tiny holes, cutbacks, running after hard hits. The one in overtime where that D tackle comes and lays the lumber on him, somehow still stands up and gets another 10 yards after that hit. He was just refused to go down, and we're going to need him big time with all these wide receivers injured, tight ends injured, everyone, but he's been strong, steady, and we're going to need him a lot.
I gave Trevor the shout out, but I'm going to give mine to Parker Washington, and maybe I just stole your guy, Jack. But there were, especially when Dami Brown and Brian Thomas Jr. went out in the second half of that game, there was times where it's basically Parker Washington and nobody else. Tim Jones, I think, and Tramwell. Like we were doing nobody back there to catch it. And he was 8 for 90, and he caught almost everything thrown his way, including some very difficult over the middle of the field catches, which some of our guys are not as good at. So yeah, I thought he played great, especially in a situation where he was our only weapon and we were still able to move the ball against the Raiders.
JT, you definitely stole my guy. Parker Washington was phenomenal. He's a guy that I loved even going into the season, as you know, a lot of people counting him out wide receiver 4. There's just not going to be a spot place for him. Well, he's making plays and he's on record for a career year for him. He always tweets out, chop wood, carry water, and he does. He's just a hard worker. He gets the job done. He's tough. He's physical. He makes the catches. He had so many key moments. And for any Marvel fans, man, it made me think of that scene in Endgame where Captain America is the only guy left. He's limping. He's getting to the top of the hill, and all Thanos' army is coming. That's what it felt like with Parker Washington. He is the lone true wide receiver left. You got other guys on the practice squad getting in. And everyone knew if Trevor was going to throw the ball, it was going to go to Parker Washington. And he still made some big plays. Trevor's got to be the other game ball. 23 for 34, 220 yards. He did have the ugly interception, but getting big plays with his legs, 9 carries, 24 yards, 2 touchdowns, being able to extend the ball in that 4th and goal. He loves that play, and it finally worked. No fumble, only a touchdown. I know his wife was talking before that they were both throwing up all night before, throwing up that morning. She couldn't believe that he was even able to play that game. And so it's just gutsy performance. It was clutch. In the last 5 games, Trevor Lawrence has 3 either game-winning or game-tying drives. So it's really cool. This isn't a part of Trevor Lawrence's game we've seen very much in Jacksonville. So potentially we're seeing a clutch gene unlocked in Trevor Lawrence. So my game ball goes to the captain, the leader, the guy who rallied the troops, even with so many people banged up. Trevor Lawrence getting the job done, scoring 30 points for the Jags offense.
Hey, if Parker Washington's mantra is keep chopping wood, hopefully he's not taking lessons from Chris Hansen when he actually tries to literally start chopping wood, because we don't need another guy on IR.
That's a deep ball. You've texted us that before, and I couldn't remember the story. So Jags fans, look that up. It's a crazy story.
Anyway, so let's take it to the offense. It was a productive day in some senses. I guess I should say it's a productive day in the second half onward for the Jaguars, where the Jaguars scored 20 in the second half and then 7 more in overtime to score 30 of our points. The only production we had in the entire first half, points-wise, was that 68-yard field goal, which we'll talk about in special teams. But guys, what did we think about the offense? What was the difference between the first half and the second half in our production?
The difference was it worked. To me, the craziest stat, go look up time of possession. The Jaguars had the football for almost 43 minutes, and the Raiders didn't even have the ball for 27 minutes. You're talking about the Jaguars having the ball for more than an entire quarter of game time than the Raiders. And it just worked. Joey, you mentioned up top, they were able to establish the run. We were finally able to have a game where we weren't down super early and felt like we had to pass all the time. Etienne, as we already mentioned, was fantastic. Tootin had some big plays on 3rd and short, 4th and short. He had a touchdown in this game. Even LaQuint Allen had a really nice run on a 3rd and short. Trevor Lawrence, again, using his legs on those 3rd and 1 plays. Keeping those drives rolling and moving, you wear down the other team's defense to where, Joey, again, you mentioned it, in overtime, the Raiders knew what was going to happen. They were going to run it, and they ran the ball 8 times in a row and could not stop it. So they stuck to their game plan, they stuck to their guns, and they were able just to wear down the Raiders' defense and be the more physical, tough team in the end.
Well, to be honest, also, the offense was actually working in the first half as well, but you left 10 points on the field. You got all the way down to the 1 and threw a pick. And then the next drive, you get all the way into field goal range, but then you get a bunch of penalties and it pushes you out of field goal range. That was 10 points right there that you left on the field that you just didn't make those mistakes in the second half. That was the difference was you got rid of the penalties and you got rid of the boneheaded mistakes.
I completely agree with you, Joey. I was going to mention the penalties. One of the things that we were texting about in the first half is the frustration we were experiencing of like, man, these penalties that we keep saying like, oh, they should be easily cleaned up. are never cleaned up. And so it's like you start to wonder, okay, is this just who we are? A very sloppy, undisciplined team. To see us tighten up and play well and unlock some of our ability. And then look, some of it was finishing. We were right there in the goal line, knocking our chance to score in the first half, and we get the turnover, and then we get some penalties, and we just a lot of kind of like funky things. But make no mistake about it, Jack, you're spot on. The time of possession was huge, and you saw that in the fourth quarter going into overtime. Vegas defense was certainly on their heels and gassed, and then that's really when our running game started to work. It wasn't that effective early on.
I know we're going to save it till the special teams breakout, but I do think we just have to mention what that moment meant, not just for breaking the NFL record when Cam Little hits that 68-yarder, but you're going into the half. Like if you went into the half shutout by the Raiders, you would have felt like it was a colossal failure, but you can go in with a ton of momentum. You're celebrating. The energy is high, and Cohen talked about it after the game. That was a moment that just gave the whole team life. It just felt like everything was going wrong, going into the game, injury. Offense, you finally drive. You have a 10-minute drive, and you come up with 0 points because of that brutal interception. And Cam Little steps up to the plate, drills a 68-yarder, and it gave the team life. And the second half was a completely different Jags offense. Not perfect until probably the fourth quarter is pretty close to perfect. But even, you got that interception. You would have liked to seen them score a touchdown there. They couldn't finish that drive, but man, that kick just gave the whole team life. And then I felt like Trevor was able to carry them the rest of the way in the second half and overtime. Not just throwing the ball, but just the energy and the drive. And if you needed a big play, you knew Trevor was going to make that play, typically with his legs. And again, it felt like that's not been true of Trevor's career to this point, where it's like, oh no, Trevor needs a big play. Hold your breath. Hopefully we get a penalty, or hopefully we just catch a lucky break. But he went out and got it. And we've seen that from him multiple times, especially that Chiefs game, 2 touchdowns. So Trevor, when needed, stepped up and made a play.
I feel like he's making better decisions when the game is on the line. I felt early on in his career, he was always kind of pressing, trying to get the ball as far down the field as possible and gain it all back at once, instead of, as you saw, a dump play to Etienne, another dump play to like take what is given to you and just compile it on each other and let the wide receiver or running back break a tackle, make a move with the ball. You don't have to get it all in the air. You can get a short pass and have it break for something big. But let's move now to our defense, who started off really well. I thought was actually doing really well against the run. The tight ends were getting some, but not a ton of looks, but then just fell apart in the second half. And what a lot of people are pointing out is the second the defense fell apart is when Trayvon Walker got himself thrown out of the game for throwing a punt.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it also is one of those things where Trayvon Walker would not have been covering Brock Bowers. So, I mean, ultimately,
Nobody was.
Yeah, exactly. That felt like it reminded me, Joey, when you and I went to the Chiefs playoff game and Kelsey had like 14 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns against us. That's what that felt like. Just nobody could guard him. Now, the one thing that, like, before we push the panic button completely on the defense, the 2 guys that you would want to guard him are probably Eric Murray and Devin Lloyd, both of who were out that game. So you're missing your 2 guys that are most likely going to at least limit your tight end. But boy, he was unguardable. And then when we finally decided to put extra
Lewis on him as well.
But then Lewis got hurt too.
Yeah, exactly. And then toward the end, Trey Tucker was just wide open because we were trying to try to stop Bowers, even though we couldn't. So it was just a mess.
Yeah. Well, we went to man, and I will say Montaic Brown, he's a good corner, but he's not the fastest. If he gets put up against someone that quick, he's going to get burned every single time. I've watched him play now for the last 2.5 years. Every time there's a speedster, he's just not fast enough.
For sure. But I do want to give Brown credit for the interception
Oh,
because
great interception.
the Jaguars, they needed that play. The Jaguars owned, the middle eight. I know Dabo Sweeney would talk about that all the time. The final 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, where they end off with that 68-yard field goal, which was amazing. Then the second play, the Raiders of the start of the second half, Monteric Brown breaks on that ball perfectly, gets an incredible interception, and sets the Jaguars up for some more points. Again, would have been amazing to get a touchdown, but at least get a field goal and tie that game up. He had an up and down game, like the rest of the secondary. He probably was the best corner once Jordan Lewis went out, and obviously Travis Hunter was not available as well. But I know we're going to talk about the trade deadline. The safety play is just brutal right now. No Eric Murray. Him being on IR is certainly very troubling. Wingard just cannot cover. Johnson had a couple nice plays, but also some big misses. So the safety play is the red flag. That's where I'm a little bit closer to panic because Murray's going to be out for at least 3 more games. I am definitely worried about the Jags safeties right now. And the biggest and the craziest stat, you look at the Raiders. The Raiders had 29 receptions. 22 of those went to running backs and tight ends. More than 75% of the completions for the Raiders went to running back and tight ends. It was obvious what they wanted to do, and the Jags could not stop it at all. Fortunately, Devon Hamilton makes just an amazing play because there was 2 guys wide open in the back of the end zone on that 2-point conversion. So I think Pete Carroll was totally in shock because he was like, the play was perfect. Devon Hamilton just made a great game-saving, game-winning play there to seal the deal.
It's possible we'll get Devin Lloyd back. I think he was a game-time decision. He was questionable. Some people thought
he's definitely back next game.
To try to give it a go. So I think we'll get him back. I'm not 100% sure what the Eric Murray status is, but I mean
he's on IR. He's definitely not back for.
Dang it. Yeah, he's been the guy that I think has been the key to the success in the secondary so far. And I've been trying to say he's similar to Donovan Darius in my eyes. And you certainly noticed this week against a team that's not exactly a great passing attack team. So I'm a little bit nervous when we get past Texans with Davis Mills, how we look if he's still not back.
Oh, I know. And they didn't even go deep downfield, which is where actually Wingard's the worst. So I'd be scared with the Texans coming up, trying to cover Nico and them maybe going after Wingard. He's a good run defense safety, but he's just not a starter. Oh, I mean, we've watched him for years now. There's a reason why he never starts because he can't cover nobody.
The secondary is a concern, but on the flip side, the run defense for the Jags is legit. They are a top 10, potentially top 5 run defense. What they did to Genty in that rushing attack was extremely impressive. Genty only had 42 yards. In fact, the Raiders had 19 carries for 57 yards, just 3 yards per carry. They were able to shut down that part of the game. Now, if they could just take one more step further, and I think this is where I'm a little bit more concerned because I know Jags fans have talked about this all the time. How long has it been? I don't know why. It doesn't matter who's our head coach. It doesn't matter who's our GM, who's our defensive coordinator. For some reason, the Jacksonville Jaguars can just never cover tight ends. It's been true for years upon years upon years. I don't get it. You would think at some point you're like double or triple team Brock Bowers because it was so obvious that they were going to go to him, and he just beat whoever was on him, whether it was Foye, whether it was Jarian Jones, whether it was anybody. Bowers just destroyed them and manhandled them in the second half. I got beat so bad in a couple of fantasy games because Brock Bowers goes for over 40 points. It was crazy.
It felt like watching a Gator game with Bowers destroying us for years. I was certainly getting flashbacks.
It wouldn't have been as bad. Lloyd is the only one, which is crazy to be saying, that can cover that type of stuff because he has that instinct of not, let me just drop to my zone and then be there when the guy catches the ball and I'll tackle him. You have to jump in front of that, anticipate it. If you need to drop back 5 yards to hit your zone, but you know it's going to Brock Bowers and he's beneath you by 3 yards, leave your zone and go attack him and try to knock the ball out, try to jump in front of it. Like, you have to be able to know your assignment, but also be instinctive and just go after the ball. That's what Lloyd is. The reason he picked Patrick Mahomes off in the red zone, he was supposed to be blitzing, but he knew what the play was. He had an instinct. He dropped back, found Kelsey, and picked the ball off because it wasn't exactly his thing to do, but that's what you have to do. That you have to go above what your assignment is. And a lot of our linebackers, I love Foye, but he just does his assignment. He's always there to make the tackle, but he's not going to make the play. Ventrell Miller is got his head cut off when he's covering. He's only good with the run, and then the safeties. I don't know what happened to Dewey Wingard because he was being more instinctive at the beginning of the season, cutting things off. You heard in the kind of preseason, and then also you saw in a couple first games he was making picks, but it seems like he's lost it or something. He's no longer kind of making instinctive plays. He's in a slump.
Well, part of safety is tricky because you have to trust your corners. You have to trust everybody else is doing their job, which frees you up to make those plays. If you have a bunch of gaps in other places, then you're stretched really thin. And so that's what I would say potentially it was happening. And so I'm not as worried about that long term as long as we start getting healthy in other places on that team.
And the other aspect there is pass rush. The longer you have to cover guys is just a reality. The more the more open they're going to get, and it's especially true for safeties over the middle of the field as guys get more time to make moves. And the pass rush was slightly better, but still not good enough for what it needs to be. And Trayvon Walker going out and getting ejected certainly hurt a lot. The only shout out there I do want to give, because it was such a big moment that, of course, isn't going to be necessarily covered that much, but needs to be covered, is Josh Hines-Allen gets 1.5 sacks, getting him to 55 career sacks, which ties the Jaguars franchise record with another Jags legend, Tony Bracken. So shout out to Josh Hines-Allen. He, of course, had that amazing year setting the single season record a couple years ago and hasn't quite been as dominant, but it was nice to see him finish some plays. He only came in with half a sack. Joey, you and I talked about it in the preview, like, let's get some finished plays. Let's get those sacks. And he got 1.5, the other half going to Agba. So 2 sacks is not bad, but I would like to see more, especially if we have some injuries in the secondary.
Josh Hines-Allen, I mean, I think he's had 3 sacks where he just has slipped off the quarterback. He's been just there and just missing, and he finally started to finish. I hope the end of the game is something that he can start bringing to more of the game because we need him to start finishing some of these sacks. It's nice to get the pressure and everything, but it changes the defense and the game when he's able to bring that quarterback down for a sack. And we're going to need it big time against the Texans. And with everyone hurt, he needs to step up and be the sack leader that we know that he can be.
Just saying, the last time the Jags won in Houston 2 years ago, Josh Hines-Allen goes for that hat trick with 3 sacks, and one of them where he calls game there on a last-minute drive. So maybe we see some Josh Hines-Allen dominance against the Texans in Houston again.
Let's go to special teams. A nice return by Trammell in overtime to set us up for a game-leading touchdown, although we ended up giving a huge return to Vegas on the next play, on their big return in overtime. But obviously the big story of the day, special teams wise, was the NFL record 68-yard field goal. He was standing on his own 40 when he lined up for that kick. Unbelievable. And it looked like there was 3 or 4 yards to spare on that kick.
Cam Little, I just love to see it. And I think it also showed all the players, just because you're in a slump doesn't mean you can't pull yourself out of it. There's been a lot of players who've been in slumps. Trevor was kind of in one in the last 2 games. BTJ's been in one kind of all season so far. Josh Hines-Allen hadn't been getting the sacks. There's a lot of our stars who have just not been kind of playing up to their potential. And then Cam Little goes out there and shows you, not only can I get out of the slump, but here, let me just go set an NFL record for the first kickback off the bye, and just sets the tone for the entire team. That was the turning point for the offense, gave everyone that spark, just was well needed. I was glad he hit all of his other field goals. And the one to send it to overtime, great job by Logan Cook, a low snap, kind of fumbled, but got the ball back up for Cam Little to sneak it in on the right side. It was perfect, and he was perfect all game long. Great job, Cam Little. Great job, Logan Cook.
Such a cool moment after the game where Liam Cohen is talking about, look, the reality is, and we talked about it. Are we getting to the point where Cam Little struggled in London so much to the point where like the Jags aren't even running the kicker out? Are they going to look a different direction? Are they going to bring someone else in? And Coach Cohen just talked about, man, we trust him. He's like, everyone else in the world may not trust him, but we in the room, in the building, we trusted him. And it was almost an emotional moment for Liam just to know what it meant to Cam Little, what it meant to the team. It was a cool moment. Again, we talk about it so much, but I think it's so important because you had to have this drastic 180 culture shift where the Jags coaches last year felt like they threw the players under the bus whenever they could. And he was a head coach in his first time opportunity as a head coach in the NFL, could have blamed a kicker, could have been like, hey, we're going in a different direction. I'm tired of us not converting, not getting points when we need to. And when in the NFL, you need points when you get an opportunity. And he trusted his guy, and boy, did it pay off. A 68-yarder that, yes, was right down the middle and could have been good from even longer. An NFL record, and he breaks Justin Tucker's record that, if you remember, it hit off the crossbar, just barely making it over. And I love what Cam Little said to Cohen before the kick. He said, Coach, I promise, even if I don't make it, I'm going to get it through the back of the end zone. He had so much faith in himself and in his power, and it was such an incredible moment, obviously for the whole team, but especially for Cam Little struggling and then getting that redemption moment to spark the Jaguars into the half and ultimately to a win.
And I think it gave him confidence for the other kicks that he made, including the one to send us to overtime, because he was shaky there going into this. That 68-yard field goal, we talk about all the time, that kicking is so mental, and that felt like that was his get-right kick. And so hopefully we see that carry him on the rest of this year. And look, the other results that from this Sunday's games that were notable, Seattle absolutely destroying Washington on Sunday Night Football, and the Rams also putting on a clinic on Sunday. Look, the losses to the Rams and to Seattle all of a sudden start continuing to look like, hey, those may be two of the top 5, top 7 teams in the NFL. The Rams may actually be the best team in the NFL. So, you know what? Maybe the bottom is not as bad for Jacksonville, who's sitting at 5-3 right now.
That's a great point, JT. And let's kind of zoom out now and look at the AFC. And I'm curious y'all's thoughts. So a lot happened on Sunday. One, every team in the AFC South lost except for the Jaguars, which is always a good thing. But you also saw the Chiefs lose, which the Jags are now ahead of the Chiefs in terms of that wild card spot. But the AFC's pretty stacked. Not necessarily a super dominant team, but a lot of very good teams. So as you look at the AFC rankings right now, you have in the wild card the Bills in that 5th spot at 6-2, Chargers at 6-3, which we'll get to play here pretty shortly. Jags in the 7th spot at 5-3, and then the Chiefs at 8 at 5-4. But I did want to mention now the Colts are only a game and a half ahead, and all of a sudden Daniel Jones looks like old Daniel Jones, having 5 turnovers. So right now you're kind of at the halfway point of the season. Which one are you watching a little bit more closely? Obviously both, but are you watching the AFC South or the AFC wild card for the Jags right now?
I think both. You had glimpses of what the Colts may actually be. They've had the easiest schedule kind of, and their schedule only gets harder from here. So can there be a fall off? Absolutely, but it's also only one game. The NFL, especially this year, you'll watch a team be really great and then lose to a team that they shouldn't lose to, like the Packers versus the Panthers. You really want the wild card to start kind of getting a little easier right now because the Broncos and the Chargers just keep winning. and someone needs to fall off to make it where even if we don't get the AFC South, the wild card won't be such a haul that we may need 11 wins to get in.
Yeah, I said this a couple weeks ago. I still stand by this. I really think the winner of the Chargers Jags game in 2 weeks will decide who gets that final wild card spot. I think that is how it's shaping up today. That's such a critical win or loss for us, either for the divisional race or the wild card race. Look, I mean, the Colts lost to the Steelers on a way. You guys continually poo-poo on the Steelers saying they're not as good. I think Tomlin's a great coach. I think they're fine. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, but they always find a way to get 10, 11 wins. And they'll probably win that division with
the
how
Steelers
big
will
of a
win that
lead there.
division.
We're
How big
just
of a lead?
students of history, and the Steelers always collapse towards the end of the year, and they have
True.
a very old team. But yes,
True,
that
but
was an impressive game for Pittsburgh.
but the thing about the Colts though is you lost by 1 touchdown and you had 6 turnovers. So what's the concerning part? The fact that your offense and your quarterback actually had contributed to 5 of those turnovers, or are you encouraged that you were able to overcome that big of a deficit? So I still think the Colts are very good. I think you're happy if you can split the Colts. And who knows? Maybe you're competing for the division with them still. I mean, technically, Jacksonville still owns their own destiny with playing the Colts twice down the stretch. But I do think it's going to most likely come down to the wild card, and it's most likely going to come down to that Chargers game.
The Colts have already played the Titans twice. We have not played them yet. So knock on wood, but 2 guaranteed wins. And then you play the Colts twice. So if you go out and beat them, that's 4 games that you can get on top of the Colts.
Let's just win out. Let's go 14-3. But I will say, to your point, Joey, those games against the Colts are going to be epic. And then also, to your point, JT, here in 2 weeks, especially if you win in Houston, you're talking about what feels like playoff football in Jacksonville in November with that game against the Chargers. So we're turning the point. This is now the second half of the season. Now it's time to stack up wins and hopefully get right and get hot into hopefully a playoff run for the Jags. But before we log off and shut down the pod today is...
Oh, and this just in, Aubrey, the Dallas Cowboys kicker just tried a 68-yard field goal and missed it.
Hey,
Cam Little's record stands.
Still stands. That makes him, because everyone's like, Aubrey may be the best kicker. Well, guess not, because he couldn't make his 68-yard field goal.
Oh, Joe, you got me so excited when you said this just in. I thought the Jags had made a trade, which is what I was going to turn to. The trade deadline is tomorrow. Do you think the Jags make a move? And if so, what position would you think we might target?
I think we 100% have to make a move with all of our injuries. Wide receiver is definitely probably the number one need. Safety is the number one want for me because of talent, but wide receiver, I mean, we got 2 practice squad guys starting right now, and even if you go out and you got everyone back, they weren't playing at the top of their level with BTJ and De'Ami Brown not playing that great. So you got to go out there and I think go get yourself a wide receiver. There's been a lot of news about Jakobi Meyers, that the Jags may be having negotiations with the Raiders as we speak. Apparently, Myers talked to Baselli before the game, and then after the game went and spoke with Liam Cohen and other coaches. So a lot of people are kind of hinting that way for Jakobi Meyers. That would be a great pickup.
Jakobi Meyers would be an interesting one. I mean, I'd love to get Mason Crosby. How he was a one-man wrecking crew. I would love for us to get another defensive end.
Max Crosby.
Max Crosby, yeah, not
Max
Mason
Crosby.
Crosby.
I thought you were going to say, or Brock Bowers.
Yeah, of course, but like, they're not going to do that. But
No, we'd have to probably give up a first, which we don't even have.
They would. There's no
No.
reason they would trade him.
but Jakobi Meyers has been rumored a lot to be traded. The Raiders are certainly going to be sellers. I do think he will get traded, and that'd be nice if we get him, because I do agree with you, Joey. Wide receiver would be a need. I still would like that extra veteran pass rusher, because you have a lot of gaps now in your secondary. One of the easiest ways to fix those gaps would be if you actually improve your pass rush. Yeah, give me Give me either a defensive end and or wide receiver. We have plenty of late round picks to throw at people.
It's true. I mean, hey, the Eagles just did it. They made that big trade today to go get another edge rusher. It truly feels like you can never have too many edge rushers. So at the end of the day, I'm trusting in Gladstone, as I think all Jags fans are right now. I think hopefully he's got one, maybe two more moves. It's going to be super interesting to watch on trade deadline day. So make sure you follow us on X, because we'll be tweeting whatever the Jags do. And then we'll be back with that preview and then to talk about if the Jags make any moves or not. But it's going to be a fun day and then a big game on Sunday.
This would be the nail in the coffin for the Texans. We would provide both of them when they played us. They were 0-2. We gave them the 0-3. And then right here, I believe if we beat them, then they have 0% chance of making the playoffs. So we could send them down the river next week. Absolutely big for us. CJ Stroud most likely will be out that game after the huge hit the Broncos put on him. So it's going to be an interesting one. No CJ Stroud, but a mostly healthy Texans versus a beat up Jags team. But we do have Trevor Lawrence. So what is more important? Is a quarterback being there or having your wide receivers being there more important? We'll find out this Sunday. We need another victory, so everyone show out. It's in Houston, Texas. It's going to be noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS, so everyone watch that can't make the game. And until then, we'll end it the same way we always do.